Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Final Click. Before we begin, I want to share something important. This video is a simulation created entirely within Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. It is not a real investigation. It is not intended to disrespect Malaysia Airlines, the pilots, the passengers, their families, or any of the many investigators who dedicated years to this case. This is a visual recreation made for educational and reflective purpose only. Nothing shown here is made to assign blame to the crew, to airline, or any authority. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 remains one of the deepest mysteries in the history of aviation. One small note: in this simulation, I'm flying a Boeing 737 MAX. The actual aircraft, a Boeing 777, is not available in our simulator. The aircraft is different, but the storytelling is the same. The video is dedicated to the 239 souls who were on board that night. If you have respectful thoughts or question about this mystery, I would love to read them in the comments below. March 8, 2014, Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Late in the evening, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 is cleared for departure. Destination: Beijing Capital International Airport, China. On board are 239 people, passengers, crew, family, individual with lives, plans, and people waiting for them on the other side of the world. The aircraft tonight is Boeing 777-200ER, one of the most trusted long-haul airlines ever built. Experienced pilot at the control, a routine overnight flight. Nothing suggested this could be any other than ordinary. For the first portion of the journey, everything proceeded exactly as expected. The aircraft climbed smoothly to cruising altitude and settled into its northeasterly heading towards China. Air traffic controllers tracked it without concern. Radio communication was clear and professional. Passengers likely settled in for tonight, some sleeping, some watching films, some simply waiting for morning and arrival. There were no distress calls, no anomalies reported, no reason yet for alarm. Then at approximately 1 hour 19 minutes UTC time in the morning, the aircraft made its final contact with Kuala Lumpur air traffic controller. The accent was brief, unremarkable. The controller handed the flight off to Vietnamese airspace. The response from the cockpit was calm, composed, the kind of sign-off heard hundreds of times every night across the sky of the world. It was the night Malaysian 370. Those were the last words ever heard from the aircraft. Second later, the transponder went silent. MS-370 disappeared from civilian radar screens. At first, controller assumed a technical glitch, a brief disruption, perhaps. This thing happens occasionally. Aircraft sometimes lose contact for a short period and quickly reestablish. But a minute passed and MS-370 did not respond. Vietnamese air traffic control reported it had never appeared on their screens at all. Something had gone very wrong. In the hours that followed, investigators began piecing together what had happened, using data that, at the time, no one had thought to look at closely. Military radar records, reviewed after the fact, revealed something unexpected. The aircraft had turned. Rather than continuing northeast towards Beijing, MS-370 had banked left. A wide deliberate arc reversed its course entirely. It flew black across Malaysian peninsula, retracing the airspace it has just crossed a minute before. Whoever was in the control of that aircraft knew what they were doing. This was not a malfunction. This was navigation. After crossing back over Malaysia, the aircraft continued, flying northwest across Strait of Malacca and went towards the Andaman Sea. At some point, it vanished from military radar as well. There were no pings, no more signals, no emergency calls, no wreckage visible on any surface. MS-370 had, for all practical purposes, simply ceased to exist. A Boeing 777 carrying 239 people had vanished into the night sky. But investigators would not give up. Buried within technical communication logs, analysts discovered something remarkable, something that had never been used in an investigation like this before. Even as every system fell silent, MS-370 had continued to reach out. Quietly, automatically, unknowingly. The aircraft was still sending signals. I apologize, something happened here. It was extreme banking turn. Okay, let's get back to the video. So I was talking about aircraft was still sending signals. Okay, I will continue again. Okay, I apologize for ATC. Okay, now I was talking about the aircraft was still sending signals. This signal, known as handshake, were exchanged between the aircraft satellite communication system and a network of satellite operated by British company Inmarsat. I apologize if my pronunciation is wrong. They were not distress calls. They were not location beacons. They were simply automated check-ins. The aircraft's system confirming over and over that they were still online. The data couldn't pinpoint an exact location, but through careful mathematical analysis, engineers were able to calculate a series of arc curved lines across the Earth's surface, somewhere along which MH370 must have been positioned when each signal was sent. From this arc, investigators reached a conclusion that would reshape the entire search. MH370 had not crashed shortly after disappearing from radar. It had continued flying for nearly 7 hours after it lost radio transmission, and the data pointed in one direction, south, as we are going towards south itself. But it is not that south, it's southwest. So again continuing deep south into the one of the most remote, featureless and inhospitable stretches of ocean on the planet. The southern Indian Ocean is a place that most people will never encounter, and for good reason. It is vast, it is violent, the winds here known as roaring 40s and the furious 50s drive enormous swell across thousands of miles of open water. There are no shipping lanes, no radar coverage, no towns, no witnesses. If an aircraft were to end its journey here, it could disappear completely and remain hidden for a very long time. So let's pivot to next point. What followed was the most extensive and expensive underwater search in history. Ships from Australia, China, Malaysia and other nations converged on the search zone. Aircraft flew grid patterns day after day. Specialized underwater vehicles descended to depth of several kilometers, scanning the ocean floor with sonar. More than 120,000 square kilometers of seabed were searched. They found nothing. Then, beginning in 2014, the ocean started giving something back. Piece of wing called Flaperon washed ashore on the island of Reunion. Look at the coincidence of a reunion. Thousands of kilometers away. Analysis confirmed it came from MH370. In the years that followed, more debris turned up on the beaches of Mozambique, Madagascar, Tanzania and South Africa. Small pieces, fragment of aircraft that had come apart somewhere far at east or at sea. It was confirmation, a painful confirmation that flight MH370 had indeed ended its journey in the southern Indian Ocean. But where exactly remains unknown. What you are watching now is a simulation, my attempt inside Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 to visualize what those final hours and minutes may have looked like from outside. Darkness below, darkness above, an aircraft flying alone over a featureless ocean far beyond reach of radar, far beyond sight of any living person. There is something deeply strange about recreating this in a flight simulator. The game renders the ocean beautifully, the waves, the moonlight, the horizon, but the reality is representing was anything but beautiful. As the hour ticked by and the aircraft continued south, one thing was becoming inevitable: fuel. A Boeing 777 carries enough fuel for its planned route and serve reserve beyond that. But after 7 hours of unplanned flight, the tanks were approaching empty. The fuel tanks were approaching empty. The engines could not run forever. For the simulation purpose, right now I have engine at 71%, so it is not a threatening situation, obviously. But right now I am in a path to very high speed, so I will little bit pull the throttle back. Let's see. Okay, so throttle 1 has been pulled back, and I will pull this back as well. So now let's continue what we were talking about. So we were talking about the engine would not run forever. Now at some point the investigator believed around 0:17 UTC, that is at 17 UTC hour on March 8, the engine stopped, one then another. The final satellite handshake just minute before had suggested something unusual, a brief system restart, possibly caused by a sudden loss of power. It may have been the moment the last engine flamed out. The aircraft was now a glider, silent, unpowered, and descending. Currently, I have also taken my engine to least power. Right now it is 0 only, but here you can still see at the screen that it is still 25% at the left bottom corner. Now, as I was talking about, the aircraft was now a glider, silent, unpowered, descending. Modern airlines, even without engine power, are not simply rocks. They glide. Their wings generate lift. I cannot see lift wing from here. Okay. So I was talking about wings generate lift even in unpowered flight. A 777 can travel many kilometers while gradually losing altitude. For a brief time, perhaps 5 minutes, perhaps a little more, MH370 may have continued moving through the air, descending slowly, still covering distance. Whether anyone was conscious during this moment, whether cabin remained pressurized, whether passengers were aware, we do not know. The experts are divided on what happened next. Some believe the aircraft entered a relatively controlled glide, ending with a low-speed impact on water, which might, in theory, have left large debris pieces in a more concentrated area. Others believed the aircraft may have entered a steep high-speed dive shortly after the engine stopped, descending rapidly, striking the water with tremendous force, and leaving debris scattered across a wide area. The fact that so little debris has been found, and what has been found washed up thousands of kilometers away, suggests a violent end far from any shoreline. Whatever happened in those final minutes, no one was watching. No radar, no satellite imagery, no ship nearby, no aircraft overhead. The southern Indian Ocean received MS-370 in complete silence and has kept its secret ever since. The ocean floor in the search zone is rugged, deep, and largely unmapped. The currents are powerful and unpredictable. Even wreckage that exists may have been buried, scattered, or simply not yet found. We may be looking in the wrong place, we may be looking at the right place, and simply haven't found it. We don't know. More than a decade has passed since the night of March 8, 2014, and today it's March 9, 2026. So it's not only a decade, but it's more a decade plus 2 years, almost 12, more than 12 years now. Investigations have been conducted, reports have been published, new searches have been proposed, and yet no wreckage has been located on the ocean floor. No definitive explanation has been confirmed, no final answer has been given to the families of 239 people who were on board. MS-370 remains the greatest unsolved mystery in the history of commercial aviation. This simulation is simply an act of remembrance, a way of saying we have not forgotten. Their story deserves to be told carefully, respectfully, and honestly for as long as it remains unresolved. Rest in peace to those 239 souls on board. And thank you for watching this video. If you have any more requests or doubt, you can please write it on comment. Thank you so much for watching it. Goodbye.